Pleasure to be here, and it's actually quite flattering to be on the same agenda with such esteemed guests that you're going to hear from this afternoon. My name is Frank Clegg. I spent my whole career in the technology industry, and I have seen the incredible benefits that technology can provide. I've also seen the potential harm if technology is not implemented correctly. In my personal opinion, the way that we're implementing technology in the wireless environment today is not safe, nor is it healthy. So that's why I helped co-found Canadians for Safe Technology 5 years ago, and it's also why I've signed on with Deborah's Environmental Health Trust as the co-chair of the Business Advisory Group. However, one of the tenements of both organizations, and you heard the Senator talk about that before, is that when we are dealing with these issues, we have to have a balance between admitting that the technology will provide incredible benefits. We cannot take the position that you have to get rid of the technology. That's just not realistic. But we have to look and focus on ways to have the technology implemented safely. And so later on in the agenda, I'm going to talk about my observations and, quite frankly, a challenge to my industry on how to make the technology more safe and implement it more safely. But I really want to spend my time right now to talk and remind us of some of the incredible benefits that the technology can provide. It's just all about how we implement the technology itself. So I want to talk a little bit about the Internet of Things. I'll make the observation that right now, some of you have version 1 of the Internet of Things in your home. If you have an iPhone and you're using Siri, if you're using the Google Home Appliance or Alexa from Amazon, or if you're using a current version of Windows with the Corona software, you are in effect using some versions of the Internet of Things. And what it is, in a simplistic form, is having some form of technology that's helping you make better decisions or providing information to you that can help you based on what you're doing or what you think or what it thinks you can be doing. And if you expand that going forward, our son-in-law is actually a software developer at Google. So he got the next version of the Google Home application at home. So when he comes down in the morning, it has his calendar. It shows him his calendar, gives him the weather forecast, and any other things that it deems he may be interested in, just based on his life and things that he's expressed interest in before. Well, go down the road and say, okay, what about the next version of that in your home that says it knows your calendar, it's monitoring the weather, and instead of setting the alarm for 7, it wakes you up at 6:30, and it says, by the way, there's a horrendous storm that just blew in overnight. You need to get up earlier or you're going to miss that flight. So there are those sorts of things that can actually be a benefit to us. Now, if you evolve that to the business community and you think about it from a business standpoint, if you have those sensors or monitors in your organization and they're starting to, say, automatically order supplies or automatically notice that there's a machine that might be failing, and this machine can then send a note to the people that are responsible for maintenance and say, look, I think I'm about to fail. So not only does that help improve the efficiency of the factory or the environment, but I would argue there's a worker safety component as well. Because if we can start identifying when machines are going to be failed or going to fail ahead of when they break, then I would argue that can actually help worker safety. The other thing that we can do is a lot of these machines, if have the appropriate amount of sensors, can start automatically sensing environmental toxins in the environment. So they can self-diagnose, and again, not only self-diagnose, but also pass that message along that says, look, this environment is unsafe, and there's an alarm system that goes off and all the employees are able to leave that facility. So you start to think in the future about some of the environment and some of these terrific advantages. There is no debate, and there's a huge discussion on how many billions and billions of dollars are going to be developed in this technology. So there are some fundamental, real examples, and there will be an economic benefit from this technology, and make no mistake about it. I'll leave with the point that my former boss made I've heard Bill say this many, many times, is that we tend to overestimate change in the next 2 years, and we significantly underestimate the potential change in the next decade. And I think the Internet of Things is one of those examples of where we are overestimating what's going to happen in 24 months. But I really don't think we have a clue on what's going to happen in the next decade with the potential benefits from this technology. I would make the point, I know the smart meter issue in Michigan is a very hotly contested one. Two of my provinces at home, Quebec and BC Hydro, are in the same throes of the hydro being very, very aggressive. I can't speak for Michigan, but I can speak for both BC and Quebec Hydro. Very incredibly aggressive of getting these smart meters on homes. At the same time, there are some benefits, right? There is no doubt, I don't think there's any doubt that from a remote standpoint, anything that where you have a remote connection, you reduce error, you reduce people traipsing all over your property, and there is an efficiency from the utility standpoint. And so, we can't lose sight of that. I think, to me, one of the key benefits is a first responder environment where actually if you do have a horrific storm or some kind of a disaster, that technology, going back to a central location where people can analyze it and say, look, there's a preponderance of systems that are out here. Let's go spend our resources and allocate our resources appropriately based on having a view of the whole network that they have in front of them. I think there is no doubt there's benefits from the utility standpoint. They can be more responsive. It will save. There's cost efficiencies to them. There's no doubt about that. And also, I think in terms from a customer standpoint, you do have more information that you can use, more information you have available, and there's more control that you have. When it's connected with a better rating system, you can actually manage your power and your consumption, so you can actually reduce the costs. So again, we have to admit that there are benefits. In the latter part of my presentation this afternoon, I'm going to talk about there's a lot smarter ways to do that and a lot safer ways, but let's not lose sight of the fact that there are some fundamental benefits. I took this off I think it was California had a very lengthy discussion of the benefits, and I will admit, though, it's a bit of a stretch when you start talking about environmental and security reduction, but I'm putting them up there to acknowledge there are some benefits from an environmental standpoint. If you can manage the utility more efficiently, then you can actually potentially reduce plants that you're doing, or avoid building a plant in the future. So let's acknowledge that there are the potential for that to happen. And if you don't have people traipsing all over you properly, well, the bottom line is it is more private for you because they're not near your house, right? Kevin was going to talk about 5G benefits a little bit. I think he outlined some, but I thought it might be worth mentioning, and Senator Clegg asked me just to make sure that I touched on them. The way that I explain, so really when you think about this, 5G and the Internet of Things actually work together. The Internet of Things needs to send more information and more data, and 5G is one of the vehicles to do that, because think of it as a big pipe that can send a lot more data. There's a whole other concerns with that we're going to hear about, but let's understand that. And so the way I think about it is, think of the ability to have unlimited processing ability remotely connected to you. So in other words, think of you have the ability at faster than lightning speed to have access to it. So what that does is it opens up an unbelievable amount of applications that you can use. Driverless cars being one of them, but think of sitting in your living room and having the world's largest computer that can be available to you at lightning speed. What could you do with that? Well, the virtual reality experience is phenomenal. The ability to manage drones safely, to have them, and you've all heard where Amazon's starting thinking about having drones deliver product to your doorstep. Well, that can't happen unless you have an incredible data bandwidth, and you also have amazing processing power that can help manage that drone so it doesn't kill somebody, right? Talk about driverless vehicles, not just cars, but there will be driverless. Just about anything that can be driven can be replaced by a machine doing it. Is the machine better? Is it faster? Is it safer? And a lot of arguments say absolutely, and they will only get better and better. But you need the 5G technology to be able to handle that amount of speed and amount of data that's coming back and forth. And you need the Internet of Things to have the machines talking to each other. So that's really where they work hand in hand. There's applications going where there's going to be a smart home, there's going to be a smart offices, smart appliances. I saw where they're talking about smart roads, where the road can actually be sending information about how the whole black ice syndrome that we're all looking forward to as winter comes in. Well, in a well-designed smart road, you may get a warning of that long before you hit that environment. Is it feasible? Absolutely. Is it justifiable financially? To be determined. Let's make sure we do it safely. So I'm about out of time. So again, my intent was to remind us all that there are tremendous benefits of technology. I think anybody can debate them. We're going to hear the rest of the day. We're going to say, okay, but how do we talk about implementing them safely? Because I think that's the most important part. Again, thank you, and I look forward to seeing some of you at break. And you'll hear from me again this afternoon. Thank you. All right.